Canada 2, the United States 0. Time for a post-mortem. With Alejandro, Moreno. I think we've only got like 6 or 7 minutes, so I know we could go on for a while. Let's start. We live in a blame culture, so whose fault was it? Was it Berhalter or was it the players?
When something like this happens, it sprinkles on everybody.
Okay.
Nothing is safe. Nobody's safe, and that's Berhalter, that's the players, that's the federation, that's everybody. U.S. soccer as a whole, and everybody takes blame for this. Now, this is not a one-night thing with Canada. This has been coming. You have been seeing signs of this. You get destroyed at home by Venezuela. You have disappointment against Mexico. You struggle to beat a team, essentially a B team from Jamaica. There is plenty here to say, you know what, it isn't just a small sample size. Now we have a larger sample size, and what we have is disappointing. There's finger pointing. And in the end, I just think that everybody has to get some sort of the blame and some part of the blame. It isn't just Berhalter, it isn't just the player, it's a combination of the whole thing, and the whole structure is not very good right now.
Okay, before we analyse that further, let's illustrate what you've just been saying, the recent performances and more importantly the results for the US men's national team. Now Canada are 75 in the world, okay? What about recently? We can take the Cuba result out of there because most teams beat Cuba. What about the other 3 plus last night?
This is what I would say as a whole, but certainly specifically to last night. The most damning thing that you can say about a player, a professional player at this level, certainly representing your club, but more importantly representing your country, is the fact that you didn't compete, that you had no energy, that there was no spirit, that there was no fight, that when you got challenged, you took a step back. Instead of taking a step forward, you took a step back and didn't want any part of it. All of those things happened against Canada last night. All of them. It's no exaggeration when you look at Canada and say that they won every 50-50 challenge, every second ball that there was to be won. Every time that there was a need for energy, Canada was there first, and the United States were like, wait a minute, you're fighting against us? You're challenging us? And there was no response. That is damning. That is concerning because it goes beyond just tactics. It goes beyond player personnel available to you. It goes beyond all of that, and it goes about the personality of the player himself. And when it goes across the board, that you show up with a team that doesn't fight, that doesn't compete, that's troubling.
To follow that up, Berhalter's quote afterwards, the first thing that stands out to me was the desire of Canada. Now, you represented your country, Venezuela, with pride and passion over the years. Did you ever sit there and think, ooh, I'm not sure about this coach, I don't know if he's for me, or were you always 100% when you played?
Well, you can't concern yourself with who's coaching, who's not coaching. That has no bearings in the effort that you put forth and in the desire that you show out on the field. They can come up with all sorts of different reasonings and excuses as to why you're not playing well. But the one thing that you have to have as a constant is work, is effort, is energy. Those things you can control. Those things must be, it's a prerequisite to play for your national team. Imagine this, that you have to tell somebody who's representing their country and saying, we really need you to work hard today. Come on now. It's a given. Are we giving a gold star because somebody tried really hard? Is this the point that we are now? And if that's the case, man, the bar is set very, very low for this team. The truth is that you looked at a team that was not up for the fight, that was not up to throwing their bodies around. And when they got challenged, they had nothing. They had nothing to come back. They had nothing to say to Canada, no, we're here to play. We're here to dance. Because we're better than you, and we're going to prove it to you. There's no confidence in this team. There's no soul in this team. There's nothing about this team that gets you excited. And perhaps even more troubling than anything else, there's a certain apathy from the players that the fans can also sense. And there's apathy from the fans themselves who, now the U.S. lost to Canada, and the reaction is almost like, all right, we'll move on with our lives.
Bigger picture, who's to blame? Who's at fault for this?
But when you go through a process of hiring a coach that is not really a process, when you don't actually partake in interviewing the candidates that you would think would be suited for the position, when you have taken 2 years since the debacle of not going to the World Cup and you have really not taken a step forward, as I said before, The players are what they are, and the personnel available does not match quite what they're trying to do with this team. So it's a federation issue, it's a coach issue, and it's a player issue. You put those things together, you're losing to Canada for the first time in 35 years.
Does leadership start and end with Carlos Cordero, the president?
Well, he has to take a major role in this, but I think this is when the finger pointing starts, because you'll say to Carlos, and then Carlos Cordero will say, well, about this guy. They made the decision, and they went through the process. I was merely just getting elected as the president of this federation. These are the guys that are really going to sort it out and make the decisions for us. And now we point the finger at Gregg Berhalter because, well, he's the manager that we just chose. Right, but as a whole, people were asking, we want this team to be dynamic. We want this team to be creative. Well, you don't have the players for that. And so you're in between now. You're neither a team that fights and is difficult to beat and it's difficult to play against and shows a spirit, and you're also not a team that is able to create because you simply do not have the players available to be dynamic and proactive. And so you're not defending well, you're not playing hard, you're not showing spirit, you're not fighting, you're not competing, and you're not creating, you're not dynamic. You can't win. An in-between team doesn't win. I don't care what level we're talking about.
Probably the US's best player, arguably, is Christian Pulisic. He is dynamic, he is creative. Was it a statement, therefore, that he was the first player subbed after 60 minutes?
Well, what we are being told is that he had flu-like symptoms. And I'm not going to question that that's the case or not. Fine. He's not feeling well. He's not fit to play. So be it. But the perspective from the outside looking in, the optics for any cynic out there that would look at this and say, man, the boat is sinking, and this is a player that comes off, and he's supposed to be the guy that we hang on to. He's supposed to be our player, our difference maker, and he's sitting on the bench. It just, again, from the outside looking in, it doesn't look great. And even though they may say flu-like symptoms and this and that, I'm not questioning it, but I can tell you, as a former player myself, I'd be like, man, you're going to have to drag me off the field. You're really going to have to drag me off the field. I don't care if I'm feeling poorly. I don't care if I'm not feeling great. This team needs me right now. And to see your superstar sitting on the bench, that also sends a message.
Just finally, Adams, Altidore and Brooks, probably three players that would have got into that team. What do you reckon? 7, 8, 6, 7 players that would normally be in the strongest US team that played last night?
Well, that's the other part of this argument, that it's not like Lionel Messi walking through that door.
No.
Cristiano Ronaldo's not coming through that door. You have what you have, and those guys that you just mentioned, yes, they make a difference. But do they make a huge difference? Does this team become a dominant team now because of the presence of these players? I don't think so. They become better, but I don't think the difference that they have to make up now, that the gap that they have to bridge is that small. I think it's huge, and 3 players would not make that difference, would not bridge that gap. There is issues here, and I mean there are issues here that go from top to bottom, and everybody gets a piece of this.
Do you think Cordero might be thinking about, after the Nations League, that Berhalter might have to go, or is that not even got into his head yet? And
I mean, it should be in his head. Yeah. Now, whether they act upon it is different. But here's the thing. You make that decision, you are then saying that those people that were in charge of the process, that they are negligible too. Yeah. That they're also responsible. So where does it stop? I don't know. But the truth is that this team is not playing well, hasn't been playing well for a while, and you just don't see the personality and the identity of this group. You don't know. When you watch them play, you don't know what they're trying to do. They're neither here nor there. And when you do that, you have no chance.
If it was a report card, it would simply read, improvement required.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.